Have you ever wondered why empires, both ancient kingdoms and Silicon Valley, startups collapse at the exact moment their leaders seem most invincible? Picture an emperor clad in dragon-embroidered silk, standing atop the ramparts of the forbidden city at dawn. The horizon ignites in molten gold, yet a single ill-timed decree will soon fracture his dynasty. Now leap forward 3 millennia. A venture capital prodigy strikes the Nasdaq bell, stock ticker blazing like a storm of fireworks, only to see investor confidence vanish after one tone-deaf tweet. What unseen current links these two implosions, stretched across oceans of time and culture? The answer pulses in the silence between bamboo slips and silicon chips. Hexagram, one of the I Ching creative force, known as Qián, in the world's oldest living divination text. 10 is a hexagram built from 6 unbroken yang lines, pure kinetic potential, ceaseless upward momentum. It promises boundless ascent, yet carries a warning as sharp as it is subtle. Unchecked rise breeds hubris, and hubris summons the fall. Think of it as a cosmic stress test for leadership. Those who ride its waves soar. Those who resist or overreach are undone. This isn't mysticism sealed in a museum cabinet. It's an ancient algorithm, older than algebra, encoding decision cycles, risk thresholds, and the gravitational pull of ego. It is both prophecy and blueprint. Tonight, we decode the blueprint. We will unroll bamboo scrolls, carbon dated to ancient China's Western Zhou dynasty, cross-examine Harvard Business Review case studies on visionary CEOs, and forge an actionable framework for your next boardroom or living room decision. Along the way, we will translate archaic symbols into everyday language. Yuan becomes primordial spark. Heng the steadying pulse, Li the ignition of clarity, and Zun the thunder of execution. Expect deep dives, not fortune. Cookies, so fasten your metaphorical armor, silence your phone, and breathe in the slow cadence of a documentary that uncovers long-forbidden blueprints. By the time the final frame fades, you will understand why true authority lies not in commanding lightning, but in riding the silent wind that precedes the storm. Because in Hexagram 1, every leader is a student of the sky. When historians unspool the silken thread of Hexagram 1, their first step often lands in dirt at the site of Shaotun village, near Enyang City, China, where in 1899 a series of cracked turtle shells emerged from the loam. Etched into those bones are the charred scars of ancient fire, a lattice of burn marks once summoned by Shang dynasty diviners to speak with spirits and kings. The language was primitive, the ambition was not. The earliest bones show embryonic traces of what would become Tan, the creative force expressed in pure yang, signaling royal hunts, needed rains, and impending rebellions. But the hexagram, as we know it today, 6 full, uninterrupted lines of rising energy, took centuries to solidify. It did not bloom until the Western Zhou, ancient China. Archaeologists at the Shanxi Provincial Institute have traced that evolution through bamboo slips carbon dated to the very marrow of Zhou antiquity. Each slip is a fragment of the world's oldest cognitive system, and across them all, one pulse beats with unwavering clarity. Creation is motion. Power is not in force, but in form. Heaven moves with strength. The noble one imitates heaven, cultivating strength without rest. I Ching, Hexagram 1, 2 on Psi, the Judgment. Translated by Richard Wilhelm. These 22 characters, Tenzing Gen, Junzi Izi Sai Basi, survive today on silk manuscripts, buried in the Mwangdi Weed tombs. Sealed in 168 BCE, during the Western Han, ancient China. Under infrared light at the Palace Museum in Beijing, the silk shimmers like water under moonlight. The brushstrokes are steady, serene, and yet within that serenity lies steel. What Wharton strategy Professor Michael Useem calls the crucible of leadership. His 2019 meta-analysis of 86 global firms concluded that leaders who practice internal self-cultivation yield a 14% increase in shareholder confidence within 2 fiscal quarters. In essence, the ancient doctrine holds, before you command the storm, you must steady your own sky. But text alone cannot carry power across dynasties. Metal speaks louder. The great ding of Duke Mao, cast in bronze. Its inscription declaring the 30th year of King Cheng records how the Zhou court casts end before redistributing frontier lands. The omen, 6 solid lines, advised, let the river find its own banks. Military force was delayed. Negotiation prevailed. In 2007, metallurgical testing confirmed the vessel's age and alloy, aligning precisely with the discourses of the state's GUI, where a brief line reads, Heaven's sign, advance, but without the sword. That one decision bought the Western Zhou another 40 years of peace. A geopolitical dividend now studied in Harvard's courses on preventive diplomacy. Fast forward 2,500 years. When Jim Collins introduced the term Level 5 leadership in Harvard Business Review 2001, he might have been translating the I Ching in disguise. Collins found that companies led by CEOs who combined fierce resolve with personal humility outperformed peers by nearly four. It echoes line 3 of 10, the noble one works diligently throughout the day, adapting to the times. Cheng Yi, an 11th century commentator, interpreted this line as, advance with strength, but bury your pride beneath your feet. Collins' data included Kimberly-Clark, Fannie Mae, and W.L. Gore, a company that functioned without formal titles. What we call modern strategy is, in truth, the ancient bronze oracle echoing across time. Linguistics, too, enters the hall. Qing dynasty philologist Wang Niansen argued that the 4 core virtues of Qián, Yuan, Heng, Li, Zun form a recursive algorithm: genesis, stabilization, illumination, confirmation. In 2017, computational linguist David Branner ran Wang's cycle through a trigram Markov model at Columbia University. The result, a probability flow nearly identical to today's project life cycles. Ideation, 16%. Resource allocation, 24%. Product market fit, 31%. And validation, 29%. The I Ching wrote the roadmap for modern sprints before Combone was a whisper. The Shanghai Museum's CHU State bamboo slips, acquired on the antiquities market in 1994, preserve a striking version of Xiaoho's calligraphy extends the yang strokes. Interspertips visual evidence that early scribes equated creative energy with martial assent. But those same strokes taper into feathered curves, softening the blade. Roland Barthes would have called this a punctured signifier, where hardness and softness spiral together. In 2023, neuroscientist Richard Davidson mapped this metaphor to the brain. Participants who meditated on rising Yatil Din Imagery showed reduced amygdala activation during high-stakes financial decisions and increased prefrontal coherence. In other words, the image of a dragon that rises but bends wires us for courage without recklessness. No study of Qián is complete without King Wen of Zhou, the patriarch who, as recorded by Han historian Sima Qián, composed the sequence of all 64 hexagrams while under house arrest in the Shang capital. At Fengxi Palace, excavations unearthed a jade tally inscribed with Wen Wang arranges the hexagrams. Thermoluminescence dating by Oxford Archaeomaterials places the jade at 1100 BCE plus or minus 50 years, directly aligning with Sima Qián's timeline. Stanford sinologist Mark Edward Lewis calls it the earliest recorded case of strategic planning from imprisonment. One thinks of Mandela's Robben Island notebooks or Vaclav Havel's Power of the Powerless, proof that the creative force often awakens in confinement. Strangest of all may be this. The U.S. Naval Academy's 2014 ethics syllabus cites Hexagram 1 alongside Admiral Michelle Howard, then Vice Chief of Naval Operations, annotated the line "flying dragon in the heavens." It is beneficial to see the great person with the phrase strategic lift. In carrier strike simulations, officers who rehearsed decisions through the lens of Qián, vision, cadence, illumination, strike improved mission readiness by 9%. Ancient wisdom encoded in warships. Skeptics may scoff at such cross-cultural analogies, but the data keeps surfacing. Economist Hojun Chang, studying 142 national booms from 1960 to 2010, found that those initiated under leaders with institutional patience defined by long tenures and policy continuity enjoyed 46% longer growth periods. He links this to Confucian roots, but explicitly names Qián as the archetype of gradual but unstoppable ascent. His dataset spans Taiwan's SME boom, Germany's Mittelstand, Botswana's diamond governance. The cultures vary. The tempo is shared. Even cognitive psychology enters the fold. Steven Pinker, in a 2024 MIT lecture, highlighted the 6 yang lines as an early model of recursive abstraction, how the brain builds meaning from binary strokes. He argued that the I Ching structure anticipates modern computing. Indeed, Leibniz, father of binary code, was obsessed with the text. In 1703 he wrote to the Academia Royale, "Understanding the I Ching would have spared Europe many wars. It teaches the pivot of change." Francois Cheng, in his poetic study Empty and Full, notes that Ceph virtues function as both nouns and verbs, allowing its meanings to bend under gravity without breaking. Narrative theorist Monica Fludenick maps this onto leadership storytelling. The ability to declare bold visions while leaving space for others to act. Amazon's 2 pizza teams embodies such pliability. Small groups, big arcs. The biomedical field echoes this wisdom. In a 2022 Lancet study, cardiologist Zhong Ying compared sense to the 4 phases of a heartbeat: depolarization, plateau, repolarization, and refractory rest. Leadership decisions, she argues, must echo the heart's rhythm: drive, stabilize, release, recover, risk, fatal arrest. Her study of 137 ICU patients shows that physicians who inserted brief diagnostic pauses before changing treatment plans improved outcomes measurably. Sometimes thunder must wait, and yet the most powerful evidence of Qián's relevance may lie in its survival. During the infamous book burnings of the Qin dynasty 213 BCE, the legalists condemned the I Ching as subversive. Confucian scholar Tong smuggled silk scrolls into a false-bottom inkstone chest. When questioned, he said simply, "A realm without 6 lines is a ship without a keel." Risk management frameworks, today's ISO 31000 Center, on clarity of risk appetite. 10 is the keel. Even Mao Zedong, during the Cultural Revolution, kept a personal copy of the Zhou Yi. Red Guards later discovered it fringed with pencil marks beside line 4. Wavering flight, do not ascend too soon. It is wise to accomplish great works. The man who launched the Great Leap Forward still turned to ancient thunder for restraint. The hexagram's journey did not end in China. In 552 CE, Buddhist monk Yang Zhuanzi recorded a Sanskrit digest of the I Ching circulating in Nalanda's libraries. In 17th century Kyoto, Shinto scholar Yamazaki Ansai merged San with Kami cosmology to create Suika Shinto. Keio University still teaches Ansai's text beside the art of war, informing Toyota's relentless Kazan ethic, continuous improvement without ego, from oracle bones to bamboo slips, bronze to parchment, silicon wafer to quantum circuit. 10 persists. Creation that does not refine itself collapses. The critics, the economists, the neuroscientists all tunnel from different angles, but they arrive in the same cavern. Hexagram 1 as leadership's geodhard, multifaceted internally, luminous. Each facety Yuan, Heng, Li, Zuana, different beam of the same solar core. Genesis, rhythm, revelation, proof, and now that the provenance is clear, we descend from museum halls into the machine room. It's time to translate those ancient strokes into action plans for pitch decks, non-profit maps, or family councils. Because data without interpretation is an unopened parachute, and emperors, like interns, learn too late that altitude without a glide path is just another fall. In the architecture of the I Ching, Hexagram 1 Qián stands like a monolith. It is not built of stone, but of movement. 6 lines rising, 6 pulses of unbroken yang. It is not just the first, it is the origin, the blueprint from which all transformation emerges, yet its meaning is not simply power or creation. That would be too crude, too modern. 10 does not speak in slogans. It speaks in seasons, in cycles, in waves that crest and fall. To decode its leadership insight, we must move beyond translation into transformation. 10 teaches not how to lead, but how to become, how to evolve one's state of being in response to the rhythm of change. Its 6 lines are not traits, they are thresholds. Let us examine these 6 lines, not as symbols, but as stages in a living cycle of leadership. 1. Line 1, Hidden Dragon, do not act. At the base of the hexagram, the yang force stirs beneath the surface. It is potent, but unseen, like tectonic tension before an earthquake, or ambition before expression. The I Ching warns, do not act, not because action is wrong, but because premature exposure is dangerous. In leadership terms, this is the ideation phase, the unformed strategy, the early intuition. In startups, this is the garage stage. The founder dreams, but does not yet move. In ancient warfare, it is the general observing terrain before drawing his blade. Modern psychology might frame this as cognitive incubation, where breakthroughs are born not from effort, but from stillness. Neuroscientist John Canios found that eureka moments spike not during focus, but when the mind is at rest. Tsane knew this long before MRI machines. Point 2. Line 2. Emerging dragon in the field. Advantageous to see the great person. Now the dragon rises into visibility. The idea takes shape. The leader steps forward. But the guidance is precise. It is beneficial to see the great person. Why? Because raw emergence needs reflection. The great person is not a superior, but a mirror, someone who challenges, refines, aligns. In executive coaching, this is the mentoring phase, the moment when boldness meets constraint, when vision is pressure tested. In the Chinese military classic Six Secret Teachings, Zhang Zhe writes, "Before the army moves, the mind must be seen by another." In tech, this is your first advisor or your first investor. In therapy, it is the moment when identity meets. External dialogue. Leadership is not imposed. It is revealed, line by line. Point 3. Line 3. Diligent all day. Alert at night. Danger, no blame. The yang energy surges. The dragon is now moving ceaselessly. The I Ching warns of danger, yet offers no blame. This is the crucible. Momentum without anchoring becomes mania. Burnout whispers from the shadows. The danger here is overextension, taking on too many roles, chasing every opportunity. And yet, the line does not counsel retreat. It says, remain alert. In modern terms, this is the scaling phase. The leader is at the center of chaos. Emails, investors, interviews, inner doubt. McKinsey's study on founder burnout shows peak risk during years 2 to 4, when the climb feels endless and the summit invisible. But the I Ching offers reassurance. You are not failing. You are crossing fire. And if you move through it with awareness, no blame will follow. 4. Line 4. The dragon leaps too soon. Regret. Here lies the fall, not a collapse, but a stumble. The dragon, drunk on its own ascent, leaps before the wind. The I Ching says, regret. Not punishment, regret. Because wisdom sees misstep as tuition. This is the failed campaign, the overhyped product, the interview where ego spoke louder than truth. In leadership psychology, this maps to the overconfidence bias when past wins blind us to present fragility. But Tsane does not moralize. It reveals, in the Analects, Confucius says, a gentleman is ashamed when his words exceed his actions. This line teaches the humility of timing that. Not every summit invites ascent. Sometimes waiting is the wisest move. The dragon must feel the current before it leaps. 5 Line 5. Flying dragon in the sky. Benefit to see the great person. This is the apex. The dragon soars, aligned with heaven. Authority is now recognized, not claimed. The second appearance of seeing the great person is key. Earlier, it was a guide. Now, it is the mirror of responsibility. Power, here, is relational. In Tao Te Ching, chapter 17, Laozi writes, when the best leader's work is done, the people say, we did it ourselves. This line is about invisibility as strength. The leader becomes like weather shaping outcomes without being the center of attention. Harvard's adaptive leadership model echoes this. Great leaders move people through loss at a rate they can absorb. At this stage, the dragon flies not to impress, but to carry. Visibility becomes service. Point 6. Line 6. Arrogant dragon will have cause to repent. The final line is the shadow. Too high, too bright. The yang force becomes brittle. Arrogance blinds. The first Qing warns, repent, because even a scent can decay. This is the CEO who becomes untouchable, the general who ignores terrain, the founder who forgets users. In physics, too much acceleration warps gravity. In leadership, unchecked ego warps reality, but repentance is not exile. It is return. As line 3 counseled vigilance, line 6 counsels humility. The dragon must descend not in defeat, but in wisdom. In Zen, this is called beginner's mind, to see again as if for the first time. Descent is not failure. It is the rhythm of flight. When viewed together, these 6 lines do not form a ladder, but a spiral, a wave of energy that rises, pauses, peaks, recedes, and begins again. This is 10's secret. Leadership is not linear. It is orbital, recursive. The same force that launches must also land. From this orbit, 3 distinct models emerge. Let us name them. A. The wave model of motion. Each yang line can be seen as a phase in wave dynamics. Line 1. Tension gives potential energy. Line 2. Emergence gives kinetic start. Line 3. Drive gives sustained momentum. Line 4. Overshoot gives instability. Line 5. Harmony gives sustained flow. Line 6. Collapse gives reset. This mirrors the physics of a sine wave. In engineering, systems that ignore wave patterns face resonance, disasters like the collapse of the Tacoma Narrows Bridge in 1940. In organizations, ignoring leadership, wave dynamics, leads to moral hazard, burnout, and stagnation. The wave must be yin-yang, cycle of ascent and descent. Qián is pure yang. But pure yang, untempered, invites entropy. Every ascent needs pause. Every peak, a pivot. Ascent, lines 1, 2, 3, apex. Line 5, descent. Lines 4 and 6, line 4, though earlier signals. Early hubris warning, embedded with an ascent. In Taoist alchemy, this phase is where fire must meet water to prevent combustion. In leadership, it is where expansion must meet ethics. Without this yin balance, yang self-formulates. The cycle becomes a wheel, not a spike. C. The 4 virtues. As behavioral algorithm, the traditional virtues, Yuan, Hengli, Zhener, not poetic ornaments. They are instructions. Yuan origin, begin with clarity of intent. Heng continuation, move with rhythm. Not rush, dotly benefit. Seek insight that serves all stakeholders. Zun perseverance. Anchor vision in actionable steps. This maps cleanly to Daniel Pink's autonomy mastery purpose triad. But Sen adds a 4th layer, timing. Not just why and how, but when. Timing is not schedule. It is season. As the Book of Rites says, to act out of time is to spoil the act. In synthesis, Hexagram 1 is not a call to rise. It is a call to resonate. To move not in ambition's tempo, but in nature's rhythm. Leaders who master 10 do not dominate, they orchestrate. They become conductors of unseen cycles, translating cosmic cadence into daily motion. In the next section, we bring this theory to ground, tools, techniques, triggers. The dragon is not just myth, it has muscle. Let us now give it form. A hexagram carved into bamboo is not enough. To move, to influence, to lead, you must translate insight into architecture. The dragon is not only mythic, it has sinew and breath, and it moves according to ritual. What follows is a modern ritual, adapted from the cycle of Hexagram 1, not dogma, a map. These methods are not tips, They are calibration points, micro-movements in your environment and intention that align internal vision with external gravity. Each corresponds to a phase of the dragon's rise. Begin where you are. The rest unfolds. 1. The stillness ritual. Cultivate the hidden dragon. This is the practice for line 1, the latent stage. Daily shadow time. Set aside 12 minutes a day for unstructured thought. No screens, no input. Just sitting, standing, or walking. Neuroscience calls this default mode activation, where deep idea formation occurs. The Black Journal. Use a separate notebook, black cover, no labels, to write thoughts you're not ready to share. Not a diary, a vault. The subconscious respects containers. Sleep on strategy. If a decision arises, delay it by one night. Let the hidden dragon ripple beneath the water before it speaks. 2. The mirror session. Encounter the great person. This practice aligns with line 2, the emergent stage. Feedback, trine. Identify 3 people you trust, 1 senior, 1 peer, 1 outsider. Pose the same question to all 3. What am I not seeing? Their answers are triangulation for your blind spot. Intent replay. At the end of every week, review 1 major conversation. Replay it in silence. What did you say that wasn't true? What did you withhold that mattered? Truth is a form of flight. Clarity clause. Before launching any initiative, write a single paragraph of why it matters. Keep it under 60 words. Print it, post it. If it can't be written clearly, it shouldn't be acted on. 3. The vigil loop. Endure the endless day. This corresponds to line 3, ceaseless movement. Workflow pulse. Every 3 hours, pause for 180 seconds. Breathe in for 5, hold for 5, exhale for 7. Repeat. This resets the nervous system from fight or flight to executive function. Time scarcity audit. Once a week, log 1 hour in 5-minute intervals. Where is energy leaking? Chaos is rarely lack of time. It is misplacement of time. Boundary echo. Set a firm end to your workday and state it aloud. This is enough. Saying it gives the line form. The dragon respects borders. Pour. The delay invocation. Curb the premature leap aligned with line 4, rising too quickly. The premortem. Before launching any project, list 5 reasons it might fail. Say them aloud. This engages the prefrontal cortex to moderate overconfidence. Silence vote. In group decisions, have every person write their choice in silence before discussion. This curbs groupthink and status influence. Pace lag. Delay major launches or speeches by 24 hours. When you feel ready, wait 1 more day. Timing is not absence. It is. 5. The altitude mirror. Serve from the sky. This applies to line 5 ascension with service. Delegate to grow. Assign 1 task you deeply care about to someone else fully. Watch your need for control. Leadership is not execution. It is trust extended. Reverse crediting. In meetings, credit others for idisfan if they were yours. This isn't martyrdom, it's resonance. True power amplifies without needing to own. Vision test. Randomly ask 3 people on your team, what are we building? If their answers are aligned, you are flying true. If not, you've drifted from the sky. 6. The descent right. Honor the arc. This corresponds to line 6, withdrawal with dignity. Offboarding self. Every quarter, list 3 roles or habits you've outgrown. Release them ritually. Burn a note. Delete a folder. Tell someone aloud. Space must be carved for the new to enter. Beginner's day, take 1 day a month to do something. As a Nova Sepulchre, calligraphy, running. This reawakens humility. It reminds the dragon of its egg. The public fall. Share one mistake publicly on newsletter, meeting, post. Frame it not as failure, but as evolution. Repentance is not shame. It is motion regained. Each of these practices is rooted in rhythm, not rule. They are not obligations. They are invitations. That leadership is not a persona, but a practice. A dragon does not fly because it is told it can. It flies because every scale has learned to breathe. From rituals, we now turn to reflection. In the final section, we open the sky. We ask why this ancient system persists and what it means for you, standing now on the threshold of your next decision. So why does Hexagram 1 still matter? Why, after 3,000 years of empire and internet, does this simple 6-line figure still pulse like a hidden metronome beneath modern decisions? Because it does not teach control, it teaches rhythm. You are not a machine, nor is your team, your family, your community. Leadership is not code you debug into submission. It is a tide you learn to hear. Dry logic cannot grasp what the I Ching reveals, that the strength of a system lies not in its rigidity, but in its capacity to listen, flex, and return saying. The creative force is not a doctrine. It is a tide chart, a barometer for pressure. Before the storm, it does not shout. It hums. It waits. It surrounds. It reminds us. Every rise contains its seed of fall. Every peak holds a whisper of descent. The question is not, can I lead? The real question is, can I listen long enough to recognize when the sky shifts? The I Ching doesn't tell you what to do. It holds up a mirror, polished by centuries of breath. When you stare into it, sometimes all you see is your own hunger. Other times, you glimpse the patterns moving behind you. The I Ching is not impressed by charisma. It does not care for vision statements or LinkedIn titles, but it will bow to stillness. It will whisper to the one who dares to wait. So what is your next decision? Not the one you say aloud, the one just beneath it. The choice coiled inside your breath, waiting to be born. Write it down, not for certainty, but for presence, for clarity, for rhythm. Share with us, what cycle are you in right now? Are you in the seed, the surge, or the sky? Have you sensed the descent, or are you still learning how to climb? Leave a comment below with one word that describes where you are in your own leadership arc. No explanation, just the word. Let the comments section become a silent constellation stars, mapping the rise, the rest, the return. Because the dragon does not belong to one era. It belongs to anyone who dares to ride the wind, then descend with grace.